Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Boring Show. Today we're mixing things up a little bit. Normally it's a couple members of the DevRel team for Flutter or the Flutter engineering team, but today we actually have three different Google developer experts that are in the studio with us, and you're going to get a chance to hear from all of them. And then all four of us are going to take your questions at the end. So we have a full house here in the studio, and we're starting with Eero Kronka. Am I saying that correctly?
That's pretty good.
Thank goodness. And so we're going to be talking about his Inkino app, which is one of the sample apps that we reference in our samples index about being as a particularly good model for how to develop something that's really big. And in recent development, you now have, it's a multi-platform app. So you are sharing code between Flutter and a web app at the same time.
Exactly.
Which is pretty cool. And so we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about how Redux is working for you, and just sort of get our hands dirty with this code and take a look at it. So if you would like to find this app, you can find it in the curated samples index that's part of the Flutter/samples repo. The app is called Inkino, and all of the source is available in Eero's GitHub account. And let's take a look. So I've got it right here. Let's take a look at the web app itself. So this is your web app, and this is a recent development, right? This came out just recently. It lists. Actually, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the app does?
Yeah. Well, basically, I built the app to scratch my own itch because I live right next to a Finkino cinema.
Okay.
And the official app is there's a lot of improve in that.
Okay.
It takes 5 seconds to even go to and see the show times.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I'm an engineer, so why not I just take a look and see if I can improve it?
Yeah, be the change.
Yeah. And then I found out that they actually have this really nice and modern XML API. It's not fancy as JSON, but it's still
Oh, that's right. That's another thing that your app does that not everybody, a lot of times you're using JSON so much, and you're actually parsing XML, which is really interesting. So it's a good example for that reason as well.
Yeah.
And so you have, let me pull up, I've got it running in an iOS simulator right here. And so this is just listing what's in the theaters right now?
Yeah, currently it's listing what's in Helsinki Tennispalatsi.
Okay.
If
anyone happens to be nearby.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh. And so you've got a listing screen here. We can go into Spike Lee's latest thing.
Yeah.
You've got cast photos and a gallery.
Probably what I usually do with this app is that if you go one screen back, right, and click on the show times on the bottom navigation.
The nav right there.
So you can see what's currently playing there and all the show times, and you can see which movies are playing, and if you click the yellow button, you can actually buy tickets, but it's redirecting the...
Okay, so you're doing the URL launcher probably package to get out?
Exactly.
Awesome. And so... looks like you got a sliver app bar at the top, I'm guessing?
No, that's actually something that I didn't know about sliver app bars back then when I first did this, so this is something
You just custom wrote it?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Don't look at the code.
I have a lot of code that way. But this is great. Okay, let's look at the code here.
Okay, so the main point here is that across those... Did you actually show the web app?
So we have...
So that's web for web as well. So you can show the web show times on the web as well. Click on the details page.
So this is the web version of the screen that I was just looking at, basically.
Exactly. Okay. So it's on the web as well, and it's responsive. So it's a progressive web app as well. So the web app works offline.
Oh wow, that's
nice. It works in a mobile device as well. So and you can install that to your home screen as well. And the main thing is that I'm sharing 40% of code between those two apps.
So 40%.
Yes.
That's a nice time saving.
Yeah.
Okay. And so let's go back in here. So this is the mobile. This is the Flutter app itself, and then you have core, which is.
And we have my secrets visible on the screen.
Yeah, I just leaked an API key, so that'll get blurred in post-production.
Yeah.
My bad on that one. But you have a core that's shared code. Let's just close this file here.
Yes.
This is shared between the two,
Yeah.
right? And then you have a web project here that has additional code for the web presentation.
Yeah, this is basically the main entry point for the web app.
And this is written in Dart as well.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
And here
Angular
you-
Dart? I see an
yeah.
NG in here.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Angular Dart. It was actually pretty cool to do that.
Nice. Well, let's take a look real quick at the mobile project. I'm curious, so you use Redux
Yes.
as your state management for this.
Yeah.
And I know we get a lot of state management questions. People are wondering about the various approaches because Flutter isn't opinionated in that way. You can sort of do it however you want. Let's talk about that real quick. So where is the Redux code? Is that in core? Is that...
It's in the core
Okay.
project. So basically what we didn't discuss is that I have 3 projects. So one is the core project, which has all the business logic, all the shared code. Then we have mobile project, which is the Flutter project. And then we have web, which is the Angular Dart project.
Okay, so you would have Angular code sort of managing presentation of the core stuff for the web?
Well, yeah. So the Angular project imports core in the web project, and mobile project, which is Flutter, imports also the core project.
And then sort of makes widgets out of it, I imagine.
Yes. So the goal is to keep the UI layers as dumb and lean as possible and have all the logic in the core.
Cool.
So you probably have the okay, this is the core and this is just the TMDP API. This is probably not the most interesting classes
Okay.
here.
Well, what can I pull up? Where's
You can-
where's something that's like making a reducer or
So
something like that?
probably the theater or actor or those folders.
here?
So for example, that one.
So this is middleware for Redux. So
For the theater listing, this is that one.
So let's see. Where?
So there's a lot of like logic related to, for example, if you live right next to Helsinki Tennis Palatsi, and you know that you choose that the first time when you open the app. You don't want to do that every time you open the app.
Right.
So it's persisting that to locally,
Okay.
so that every time you open the app, it remembers that. And that's actually interesting part of this. So if you can go to the like entry point of the Flutter or
Sure.
web app,
Yeah.
the main Dart file, yeah, here. So basically, here's the function call that we like on the 17th line. If you command click on the create store. Oh, okay. So you have to, because it's not.
Let me go to the mobile mobile one. I'll probably have an easier time navigating through the code.
Well, but it might be that it doesn't work here. Like I set up something special for. Okay, awesome. So this is basically the code that creates the Redux store, and it takes in a client and key value store. And this is the thing that you will encounter when you're sharing code between web and mobile. So that, like, if you want to persist something, Android has the shared preferences.
Right.
iOS has NS user defaults, and web has local storage. And how do you like?
Yeah, we've sort of got that worked out.
Yeah.
In the world of mobile, we have
Yeah.
local storage, which will handle the details of mapping to iOS storage and Android
You mean
storage.
shared preference, the plugin?
There you go.
I'm
Yep.
using that on mobile. Yeah,
But that doesn't help you on the web. You have to come up with your own thing.
You cannot import Flutter in the core module, and you cannot import web in the core module. So how do you do that? And basically here, like this is the way you create the Redux store, and it takes in a key value store, and this is actually a package that I made. So it's a key value store is an abstract class that defines the interface for storing key and value pairs. And then on the web, I have a web implementation of that, and on the mobile we have a mobile implementation of that. So if you go back to the main Dart file that you have opened there, it's on the other tab,
One up.
or the tab. Yeah,
There we go.
we inject Flutter key value store here.
It fills out this interface.
Yes.
And is using shared prefs. There
So
it is.
this is the Flutter project, and we, in the main entry point of the app, we inject Flutter key value store, which is basically delegating all the calls to shared
Sure.
preferences. And on the web project, we have the same setup going on.
Interesting. Okay.
But I made a plugin for this, or I mean the library, and it's published on Bub, but I didn't advertise it just yet.
So it's Interesting. So is it a Dart package rather than a Flutter package?
It's actually 3 packages.
Of course.
So it's one package for just for the abstract class,
Okay.
and one package just for the Flutter implementation, and one for the web.
That's really great that you open sourced it then,
Yeah.
and somebody else can come along and use it. I have a feeling we're going to start getting more questions about reusing code as Dart as a language, I think, progresses and gets more popular. I think we're going to start seeing more questions like this. Interesting. So that's.
Is there anything else?
That's what
interesting
I was
here?
about. So we covered that. Where we talked about looking at a reducer in core too, right? So it's a fairly simple one.
Yeah.
So let's see. You've got theta reducer if action. So you're checking the action type here.
Yeah.
And then are your state objects immutable? I see you're using copy with.
That's a just manual thing that I did because I didn't want to use build value for this project because this is supposed to be a sample project, and I already have like Redux, Flutter, Angular, Dart.
You have a few
Dart.
dependencies involved already.
Yeah, so I wanted to do the build so that people can just clone it and start running it easily as possible. But basically, what reducer is like it takes in current state and an action and returns a new state. So if there's an action that it knows to handler, it will update the current state, or otherwise it will just return the kernel.
Interesting.
What do you find most interesting in this? Because I've been looking at this for a couple months now, so I'm kind of deep into it. So
I think there are details here that you would have run into that I'm curious how you solved. Like I assume you're using Redux.Dart,
Yes.
the sort of standard Redux implementation that's out there, and I think Brian Egan works on along with some other people.
yeah.
What about something like routing? How do you handle that within Flutter, for example? So do you say you're sitting on this theater listing that you have?
Yeah.
Let me pull it back up real quick. Say you're sitting here and
Theater
I go,
listing is actually on the if you click the place marker. So
Place marker?
that's the theater listing.
okay, what about the movie listing that you have to start? Oh, down here. So if I tap on one of these, I'm going to go to a separate screen.
Yeah.
Right. Have you already loaded all of the data for that screen? Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how the Finikino nice XML IPO works. It just throws all the data that it has. There's no pagination or anything.
Like
so
here's a giant XML file.
here's that, and good luck with that. So I already have the event object, so I just pass that to the
Okay.
next route.
That's interesting. So how do you parse this giant XML file? Do you do that in another isolate or anything like that, or do you do it asynchronously?
It has been working quite well, just doing it in the same thread that I'm currently in. So
Okay.
I didn't have to use any isolates or anything like that.
All right.
It works quite fine without it.
Interesting. Because that's in the Vox app that we've been working on. There are issues where I want to go to a different screen. So obviously Flutter supports that very well. You have a navigator widget that you can push routes to. But then how do you remember, oh, I'm on the details screen now for this particular session at a conference. I might need to refresh that data and go make a JSON call. And that was something that that app needed to do that it sounds like you, because of the way the back end was designed, you just didn't even have to worry about it, which is nice.
There's no way to me to do that even. Like I cannot do it. It's just like
All right.
it's a fun little API. For example, if you go to the event name cleaner on
Event name. Oh,
Yes.
That's a fun name for a file.
Yeah.
What do we have?
and the test
Oh, I
case
see a regex. We're
and the
already-
test case for that, it's in the test folder, so you can there's a lot of funny stuff going on.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. How are you testing this
So
actually?
if you go to the utils folder and see that one.
Oh, you have
So-
so many tests. You're so much more disciplined than I am.
So for example, this one is like the Finikino API returns. It thinks that like Avengers: Infinity War 2D and 3D and 2D dub and 2D original are different movies, which means that if you go to the movie poster grid, you will get like 6 same posters. So I had to do this that cleans up all the noise and just normalizes the names. And there's a lot of test cases because
This always happens.
yes.
This always happens.
So I already added a lot of cases there, and there's like a
They have to sing along for Mamma Mia.
yeah.
Nice.
And sing along is different than the Mamma Mia original, you know.
That's the one where you go and like the audience gets to like be loud and sing along with the songs.
I don't know. I never
No.
went there.
Maybe somebody in the comments can let us know. I think that's how.
Nobody. I don't have a girlfriend, so nobody is like making me go into those.
All right. Well, I think we're about done with our segment. I really appreciate you spending some time with us today. Is there anything else you think Flutter developers should know? Let's tell them.
I'm gonna just say that it was a fun experience to do that, and like we're doing that as work as well, and it's open source, so check it out. And I feel like it's actually really good reference, and I'm gonna do an article series about it.
Excellent.
So just I think you can put the link somewhere in the box down there or something like that.
Sure, we will. Yeah, like I said, this is a really good, as you can see from the size of this code base, Eero's doing some things that are definitely models for how other app developers might want to do them.
Yeah.
So if you're using Redux, if you're sharing code between the web and mobile, if you want to see some very well-made tests by the looks of it, this looks like a great sample. You can find it on GitHub under Flutter/samples. It's in our index. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for it's awesome to be officially boring. Thanks.
Yes, it is. All right, so we're going to take a real quick break, and we're going to bring on our next expert in just a second. All right, so we switched up the seating now. I'm here with Pawan Kumar, Google developer expert in Flutter, whom you may know from YouTube and GitHub. And our curated list of samples on the samples repo, you make an appearance.
Yes.
You have a whole bunch of Flutter example apps here. A lot of good UI stuff. There's a lot of UI layer, however you want to present things, you can probably find an example in this repo. There's a ton of stuff. And of course, you also make your own videos.
Correct.
Under the name MTech Viral. You have, I think, more videos than I have made for Flutter. You have
So we have like
dozens?
no, hundreds.
Hundreds?
Yeah. So it's like we have around 120 Flutter videos.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Around more than 10 Dart videos, then 10 plus Firebase videos with Flutter. So
Oh my goodness.
a lot of stuff.
That's
Yeah.
a lot. You have almost 18,000 subscribers
Yeah.
and so on. So much like I would recommend taking a look at his GitHub samples. Also, MTech Viral on YouTube. Highly
Thank you.
recommended.
Yeah, you should watch it.
All right. And so you've got something that you coded up just for us today, right?
Yes, yes. So these are very small things which I wanted to cover because when we make any project, we miss some stuff, and because of these things, we have to use a lot of other widgets to achieve this, but we can achieve it like in a very easy way. So that's what I wanted to cover. So this is our menu page. So if you can just
I'll start uncommenting
this.
bodies here.
Yes.
Which one do you recommend
First
first?
one.
Fitted sample?
Yes. Okay. So you have to import it. So,
Sure, no problem.
okay. So
And
can
through
we
the
have
magic
the
of-
emulator like this maybe?
Yeah, I can.
Yes.
hold on one
So,
second. Let me
as you
get
can
this off to the
see-
side.
Okay, that's fine. So in a row, if we have multiple widgets, then you can see that the overflow exception.
Yeah, the black and yellow.
Yeah.
I'm angry kind of
Yeah.
thing from Flutter.
Yeah. So suppose we have like 4 items in one row. So and there can be scenarios where we don't want to make those items appear in the next line or maybe somewhere else. We just want them in the single line. Then in those scenarios, I guess fitted boxes can be a very good widget. So if we'll just use sample and then just append sol after this.
Let me shrink this
Yeah.
up a little bit so we can
This-
see
this
the
much
emulator.
better.
There we
Right. So here you have to write SOL, capital S and OL.
go. Like that?
Yes, and just import it.
Import that.
Yes.
So this is the fixed version.
Yes, this is the
Okay.
fixed version.
Well, hold on. Let's real quick. Let's go into this and see the code that we were using
Yes.
before. So we have there's a row up here,
There's a row up here,
and
then
it's just
we
raised
have
button size
size
box,
box.
just like you would do if you were confident you weren't
Yes.
going to run out of space.
Correct.
Okay.
So then if you'll just show
This is the solution then.
one, yes.
We do hot reload.
And now you can see everything is fixed and everything is one line. So it will adjust the widgets inside it itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be pretty handy because sometimes you don't want to actually use multiple lines for showing those widgets. Maybe because you have small phones and maybe other stuff.
So you fix this with one additional widget?
Yeah, just
one fitted box?
Yeah, just one fitted box. And you can specify the fit type as well here.
Oh, that's right. There's a property here.
It has
right?
a property.
Fits. And it's a box fit?
Yes. So it can be very useful. I have used a lot.
Okay. I've used fitted box with images and icons before.
Yeah, but
I have not tried using it with a whole row of
so
things.
there's a repository like the Flutter UI kit where there was a card section, credit card section, and when you enter some text into that text fields, then it gets populated inside that credit card. And that was working fine, but for small devices, there was some issues, right? And even if you are using the media query to get the size, then also you don't want to actually have those credit card numbers in the next line. So in that scenario, fitted box was very helpful for me. So just size was reduced a little bit, but because the phones are also small, so it kind of works
That's
pretty
probably
well.
okay, yeah. Because I've yet to see a credit card where it wraps the number to the next line.
Correct. So it was like the UI was not looking good after that. So
Okay.
it's much better to use this fitted box.
All right. So what? Let's see what. So there's a row sample.
Yeah. So this row sample, if you just refresh it, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
But the thing is now we don't want to, you can say, compress those things,
Okay.
right? We want to show them maybe in the next line, either vertically or horizontally. So it depends. So you can just do that with a wrap widget, which can be again very useful. So
Is there a solution for this one
Yes.
as well? Yeah.
okay.
Not just a hat rack, my friends.
Yes.
All right.
So you can see
there
this
you
looks
go.
pretty well, and it works also you can use wrap for anything, and it has all the same properties which a row or column has, so it kind of works
Oh,
pretty
that's right.
well.
You have also you have
So,
alignment properties.
yes,
here as
yes. So it has the alignment,
well? Direction, alignment,
direction,
spacing.
and spacing also, run
that's
spacing
right.
as well. So
So if I wanted to come in here and say, does
Yeah.
it take an inside? What is it?
it should take a double maybe.
Spacing. Oh, just
Yeah.
a double. So I could
Yes.
come in and say I want a whole bunch of spacing between
Yes.
my widgets, and I can space them out like that.
And it looks kind of cool, and you don't have to do anything, right? You don't have to use some other widgets for doing this task. You don't have to use expanded and flexible, so that
Or inject a
some-
bunch of padding or anything like that.
So padding is also one thing I would like people to avoid because
Yeah, I see you're using sized box to space things out
Yeah,
yourself,
so
like I use.
size box is always good because sometimes it also makes your code cleaner. So that's what I feel. So try to avoid padding as much as you can.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely when spacing out things within a single direction list, I prefer size box.
Yeah.
This has been a matter of some discussion
Correct.
around the Flutter team. Actually, so a lot of
Yes.
people prefer using padding wherever possible.
Yeah, but I don't know. I prefer size box a lot. Okay, then we have this banner widget. I don't know the use of it, but we kind of used it. So as you can see,
So
there's no
banner.
solution. That's just one sample.
Oh, this is just a problem?
Yeah. So you can see this can
Okay.
be helpful like this.
Oh,
You
so
can,
is this the banner down here? This
yeah.
little-
So there's a widget
Ah.
for banner. If you'll go inside this, then it's a very small widget,
Interesting.
but you can adjust the location as well. It's kind of it looks fancy, I guess. So
This has got to be the widget they did the debug banner with.
yeah.
And so
that's
they
it.
were
This
just
is
like,
the
well,
same
if we
widget.
had to make it,
Yeah.
we'll give it to everybody else.
Yeah. So actually, one guy asked me that there's a debug ribbon on the top. How to use that ribbon? So I just searched about it and the repository itself, and I got this one banner widget. So I thought like maybe it can be useful for if you are making a gift application or
Can you
something.
I wonder, can you put a gesture detector on it? Do you know if that works? I'm curious.
Okay. I believe so. It should work because that's the beauty of Flutter.
Yeah, we're supposed to be able to compose things out of other
Yes.
things.
So let's see if that works.
Tap.
Okay.
And then I need
That is yes.
so I should, if I bring my log back up.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, it's working. It's awesome.
And is it doing? Okay, so I end up with a. I do end up. It looks like with a.
Yeah, and you
Some hit
can
detection.
change the location as well, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's using a container in the banner.
Yes. So, I mean, you can use anything. I just use container. Maybe people can use anything else. So I just wanted to show that we are in the Boeing development show. So I just use this image.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we can move to the another one.
Actually, let me go ahead and hide this.
And then we have this overlay sample, which is kind of another widget which I use a lot because I know sometimes you cannot use stack every time. So you can see
Mm-hmm.
this overlay can be helpful when you want to show something on the top of everything. So maybe
Interesting.
like there's a messenger which shows the chat head on the top of
Mhm.
screens. So similarly, but this is in-app thing, but again, it can be very useful when you want to like some people does not like snack bar a lot in the bottom. So
Sure.
if you want to show something on the top in the form of snack bar,
Mhm.
then also it's very useful. Maybe you want to show some alert or something.
Where
So,
does this? So this is show overlay. There are a lot of
Yeah.
show something top level functions I've found. Like show search is
it's,
one,
it's just
right?
name of the method. So
and so is this.
yeah.
Okay, so this is.
So you have some overlay state
Mhm.
with you have to provide the context to that particular widget,
Mhm.
and then it takes some overlay entries. You can have multiple entries as well. I'm just doing one thing. I'm just using this future to delay it by 2 seconds, and then I'm just removing it from the state. So that's simple. And you don't have to use stacks, otherwise it's kind of very difficult to if you want to show some things. And here you can just use a position widget, and you can maybe adjust a little bit wherever you want to show that particular banner or something. So I personally use it a lot for one of my projects.
I wonder. So there's. You're using an overlay.of to get the
Yeah.
overlay. So there's an inherited
Yes,
overlay.
correct.
Interesting. That must be provided as part. Provided as part of Material App.
Material app, correct.
Interesting.
And we have one more widget if
Sure.
we can use that 1 second. Okay, so now you can see the last fourth
I think we have a
one.
couple here.
Cuba sample. So first we will see this spacer sample.
Sure.
That will be much better because we have to change the Cupertino. Okay, you can see we have just can you go back and go to the code? Yes. So here you can see we have just 2 buttons,
Mhm.
but now we want some spacing between them, right?
Mhm.
We want one on the left and second one on the right. Okay, so this can be a little bit tricky if you don't know about the widgets, right?
Yeah, I would come in here and like do an
What you would
expanded
do?
here, but I don't think that would get me the like I could do
Yeah.
rapid new widget and do expanded, but I think that's just going to make this an enormous
Yeah. So
button, which I don't want, right?
so you can just add a spacer in between them. Just
Mhm.
try to do
Like
that.
this.
Okay, and just let's see what happens. Is it refreshed? It's not refreshed, I guess.
All right.
It's still
Bend to my will.
expanded. Not an issue.
I will relaunch you, just in case.
Yes. So maybe it will take a few minutes.
Give me a second here.
Okay, no, not an issue. It
These
happens
things happen all the
sometimes.
time on
Yeah.
the show. It's fine. So, did you? Let's see. So that's spacer.
Yes.
Code build done.
I guess it just stopped. For
I
no
don't know
reason.
what the simulator is doing right now. All right.
I guess I should kill it once.
Hold on. Let me hold that. Can we do that? Okay.
Yes.
Various.
A lot of apps.
Yeah.
s-
Various
apps.
things that we're running at one point.
Yeah.
Let's try
That
this
can be
again.
an issue, right? Okay.
In the
Have few
meantime.
minutes. Yeah. In the meantime,
So we have
Uh,
this.
it should work.
Sure.
So we
I
don't
assume
have-
that was the solution right there. Just to put
Yeah,
this little
that's
thing in,
that's
right?
the solution. Simple solution.
There we go.
Just use a spacer, and you can use multiple spacers as well.
And so is it just an expanded,
yeah, so
basically
you-
with an empty container inside
yes,
it?
and you can maybe give a flex as well. So
Ah, you can set the flex.
yes,
There we go.
As you can see. So kind of thing happened with me where I wanted to have 2 buttons,
Mhm.
one on the left, one on the right, and then was figuring out what's the easiest solution for that.
Yeah.
Right. The cleaner solution maybe. So it was.
Yeah,
one
one
of
widget
those-
with no properties. It's hard to get
Yeah.
much clearer than that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. One more widget, which I guess like there are a lot of widgets, but let's talk about it because it's kind of useful. Kuber sample, and I just want you to go on the top.
Here.
Yeah, on the top, and just change it to material app to Cupertino app.
Oh, of
maybe.
course. Yeah.
Okay, and just change the home as well to Cupertino sample, Cuper sample,
Like that?
and then I guess we can see.
We're gonna
some-
have to.
Okay.
I think. No.
So you have to go to this Cuper sample now.
Okay.
Okay, it's not that one. Cuper sample sol, I guess.
Oh.
I forgot.
That's okay.
Yeah. So
The one that works.
yes. So now I just want to show this way. Like if you will just try to scroll, and this kind of things you can achieve. Someone asked me that and he was looking at the App Store in the iPhone, and it had this kind of effect. So he asked me, will it take some time? And he was trying to do it without using any widget. He was trying to actually make all of these things by himself.
Oh,
He was
goodness.
giving the font size as well, and it was very hectic for him. So then I introduced him with this Cupertino widgets. So there are a lot of widgets. If you go to Cuper sample sol, then I guess there are a lot of options here. Okay, I don't think that we have time to actually cover all of
No,
them.
not if we're gonna get to observatory.
So I'll
Definitely.
make a video on that.
Yeah.
I already have 2 minutes. I guess we can also take for observatory, right? So
Yeah, let's take a look.
just
at
open
that.
the observatory. I guess that's the symbol for that directly.
Right there.
Yes. You can just yes.
There we go.
So if you'll go to this isolate main.dart.
Just
then-
real quick for anybody who has never hit that button or the link that gets
So
spit
it's-
out by
it's
Flutter
kind
Run.
of very useful stuff. So
Yeah.
you should at least take a look.
Yeah.
So just go to your main.dart, this isolate main.dart, and in the bottom, if you'll just scroll, you can see these are so there are some indications like green and red. So these green ones are those which are actually executed, and these red ones are the lines which are not executed. So it can be kind of useful. So if you'll just go here and you can just go to this Cuper sample sol, I guess if we can find here. Okay, I don't know.
It's Cupertino solution. It's
Yes.
right
So you can just go there and you can see like these lines were executed. So it is very useful for me sometimes, and I don't know, maybe it can be useful for others as well, because
Yes.
while debugging it kind of helps a lot. And there's hot restart and all this stuff I have covered in one of my video, so maybe. And one more thing I just wanted to mention before you end this. So can we go to that repository which you just this
Yeah,
one?
sure. It's the boring. This one.
Yes. So boring show.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's click on that and the bottom. So these are some tools. JSON to Dart. I guess this is the website where you can just paste your JSON and it will create the model class for you.
I've seen this
So
before.
because not everybody wants to use those scripts, right, to generate those classes, so it works pretty well.
So you can do something like this.
Yeah.
Field.
So I have that second link for this only. So if you want to have something,
Okay.
okay, it will work.
Oh,
Oh.
nope.
There was some issue.
Probably doesn't like my quotes.
Yes, that can be one thing.
The tyranny of double quotes.
Yes,
There we
yes,
go.
it's working, and
Nice.
it kind of works pretty well. I have used a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some tools. I know we have a lot to cover, but we cannot cover it
Yep.
right now. But
We're about out of time.
yeah, so
But thank you, especially for putting together such great code examples,
Yes.
along with all the other things you've done
Yeah.
to help the Flutter community.
and it is open source, so you can check it out. If there are some stuff as well, some other stuff like Future Builder as well, how to use it. So they can take a look at how to check the connections, right? If it is waiting or you have some data or not. So that's included in this repo for boring show one.
All right.
So maybe that can be helpful, right?
Cool.
thanks for having me here.
Sure
So
thing.
it's a
All right.
pleasure to be here.
All right, so that does it with Pawan Kumar. Again,
Yes.
check out MTech Viral. Check out his samples. You can find them in the Flutter/samples repo.
Yes.
And we're going to move on to our next GDE.
And please subscribe to the channel, mine as well, and this one as well. Thank you.
There you go. Hey everybody, we're back with our third expert today, Eugenio Marletti, which is Italian, I want to say.
Originally, yes.
Yes, excellent. And you have something pretty unusual to show us today. You have a
Yes.
game that you have written.
Yes, I mean, no copyright infringement with
course.
this, but there was a game once that was a viral success, Flappy Bird. if
Of
you
course.
remember. And of course, it's sort of a rite of passage to write that into whatever framework it's there.
It's the new Hello World, right?
Pretty much. And so I thought it would be fun to do it in Flutter with a few twists.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, so the very first twist is that I remade the graphics of the bird, which is Dart now. The
Oh, so you
mascot.
made a dash.
Yeah, sorry, a Dash. And Dash, the plush version. Like,
Interesting.
it's modeled after the plush version. I use this really cool pixel art editor called A-Sprite. And yeah, and there's a
So you
GIF.
have, okay.
Yeah.
So
If
there's
you can
that's Dash.
stage animate it,
Shams
yeah.
would be Shams, our tech writer who
Yeah.
designed Dash and the
you can see
plushies.
the frames if you go up and down.
That. Ah, so,
'Cause it-
so
'cause it
that's the
flaps,
flapping.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when it dies, it can also do the flapping. And the eye is the same as the Chrome dinosaur. When
Oh.
he dies, has the eyes
Oh
like
my
that.
goodness.
Then yes. So that's the first twist. The
Mhm.
other is that I didn't want to use any game engine. This
Okay.
is widgets, not even render objects, widgets all the way down.
That's an
Uh,
interesting experiment.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so like if you imagine like maybe you can like
Yes, let me go ahead and run this once so we can.
perfect, yeah.
And of course, I'm running this on the simulator, so I'm not going to get quite the performance we would on a real device.
Yeah, of
but,
course. But that's to be
which I'll blame my
expected.
poor performance in the game on.
Yeah, no, it's super smooth in release.
Mm-hmm.
But so essentially we have games normally have this loop
Mhm.
where you have ticks and every step yeah.
Oh, Dash. There we go. Oh,
Uh,
I think I hit the. So I'm going through
so-
pipes. Is that
Yeah,
by
so
design?
the collision detection is not done yet, so I put like a fixed cap, otherwise it would skyrocket to infinity. Because the acceleration is really strong.
Okay.
Because it turns out it's not using realistic gravity. I had to reverse engineer how it is, but it's not realistic. It's way stronger than you would think.
Interesting.
And so what you've seen, can you hit play again so
Yeah,
I can
sure.
show you like the layout generally?
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, you've got some stream controllers in here. I can see you've got sprites coming from the widget up here.
Yeah,
So
even
I assume these are
the
your assets.
the sprites. Yeah, essentially I created a widget class that holds an image, but
Mhm.
it already carries on information like the size and other things like that. So even before loading the image, you already know the ratio, and it's
Okay.
a lot easier for the layout to work that way.
Mhm.
Everything could be automated build time. For now I wrote it by hand, but whatever. And so what you see here is one scrolling container. The bird is actually fixed on like it.
This,
it
I should
shows-
put, this is very much in the don't try this at home vein. This sort of experimental.
No, but it's using things that are very normal.
Mhm.
Like so instead of having this classic ticking loop of the game, we have a ticker attached to the
So
widget.
like the animation ticker.
Exactly.
Use
And
it,
so
okay.
at every frame, we essentially calculate the next step. Not even by hand, like the system does it
That's,
for
yeah,
us.
that's what it's normally doing for animations. Yeah.
And then the whole thing is a scrolling container, and the scrolling is not it's not done by gestures, but it's
Mhm.
done by the ticking. At
So
every
you
tick, it
every
just
tick you
scrolls,
scroll a little bit.
linearly.
Okay.
We have the bird is falling with a simulation, of course, because that's the physics we use, which is the internal simulation class of Flutter.
Mhm.
And I just wrote a different gravity kind of simulation to make it fall.
Are you rotating? Do you have like a rotated box?
Yeah, exactly. It's rotating with a rotation transformation, I think. I don't even remember
Transform
now.
widget?
What else? It's going up and down with the
So this
translation.
is, so this is your moving bird widget, which represents Dash on the screen.
So also interesting there, like even there, the bird is composed by wrapping. So there's like the static bird, the flapping, and then the moving, essentially, and it's
Okay.
widgets nested one into each other.
Oh my goodness. So you have, okay, so moving bird, is that just Just
yeah,
the bird on
and,
screen?
and
Okay.
it's literally like it's fixed. If you really look at it, the world is moving and the bird is fixed. So it's all
Sure.
relative, right?
Mhm.
But
Bird offset Y would be the height, right?
exactly, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. And yeah,
Moving bird state. It's not something I anticipated seeing. Yeah, this is very similar to how you would do any other animation. You have single ticker provider state mix in, which provides the frame, the
Pretty
frame
much,
signal.
yeah.
It's like, hey, I need, if we're going 60 frames per second, you'd get one of these every 16 thousandths of a second. And redraw, flap subscription,
very
funnel
important.
velocity after.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is pixels per second squared. That's awesome.
Clearly.
And yet valid. And so where is your build? So this is a stateful widget, so you gotta have a build in here.
Yeah, so it calculates just a few things, but then this is the very simple widget.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's
So we start from
transform.
center of this column, let's say, right? From the ground, if I'm not mistaken, to the top of the screen.
Mhm.
And then from there, we just apply a translation and a rotation based on the values of the physic at that moment.
Mhm. Oh, now you got a custom paint in here.
I do. I don't remember why.
So it's a custom paint of birds. This is the bird.
It might have something to do with
Widgets.
refreshing. No, I think this is an in progress thing for making it flap, I believe, but I'm not
Okay.
entirely sure.
Let me close out some assets that I had open here.
But it's supposed to be right under.
So in moving bird. Go back down here. Oh.
Ah,
there's the
yeah,
paint.
it should repaint is always true.
So okay.
I think there was either a bug or I wasn't using something properly, and it wasn't repainting sometimes.
And so this moving bird accepts a bird.
Clearly.
So you're injecting the bird. And then this is, if I go back to main, I guess, would I find something?
Oh, this is this is also an interesting one. Since the original game is very much fixed on one set of dimensions, it
Mhm.
doesn't really scale on like tablets or anything.
Ah.
Then I kind of want to do the same. So what we're doing is we're drawing this at size 1,
Mhm.
and then we're putting it inside a fitted box, so that it just scales
So it scales
and fills
everything
the
up.
screen
for
by
you.
maintaining the aspect ratio. And
So there's the game widgets.
we put the borders, the red, let's say, cuts by using a decorated widget just to change the background. And as a nice touch, we also changed the Chrome to be light. So on Android, for example, you would see the light icon and
Oh.
text and stuff in the status bar. So
Where
it
are you
blends
doing that? Are
really
you
well.
using System Chrome to do
Yeah,
that back in
in
main?
the main, I think, yeah.
There it is, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I always try to call those out, System Chrome. A lot of handy stuff in there for just a little bit of fit
Crazy,
and polish.
yeah, how many things.
When I did the reverse clone Flutter flip,
Mhm.
I didn't want to do a landscape UI, and so I used System Chrome to just say, you're in portrait, and
That's a hack. That's what
where
you
you
should
will
not do
stay.
at home.
yeah.
Another cute thing. I disabled the debug mode banner
Of course.
and instead inserted my own, the game banner. So you know exactly.
So the
you know.
banner widget, heretofore unused on The Boring Show, has now made 2 appearances today. Interesting. Every time I see this, I'm reminded of the old, fork this on GitHub banners that used to be on like
yes,
every web page.
It's absolutely that.
And have fallen out of style a little bit, I guess.
But I really wanted this to feel sort of looks like a hack project, but it's actually an example on how to build apps. And so even the banner is like just let's say a joke on the whole topic. What else do we have? Yeah, there's sounds by using.
Well, that's a good.
this
How are you doing sounds?
This is the only real dependency we have, unfortunately, because there's still nothing in the framework directly. So there is one library called Audio Players, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, so again here you need like a bundle to find the sounds anywhere. And so you inject that, but once you do it, you can play a sound, and we created that just as utils to make it easier. to play the sounds. Right now they're still not wired up, but this is how you would call them. Like you essentially have a sounds object and just say sound play that, sound play that. And everything is injected all the way down. So from the assets that you could swap if you wanted to, you can inject, I mean, of course, the sounds and everything, and it's, super testable.
And so this is the package that you're using, right? The audio player
That
package.
is the package, yes.
Interesting.
Which, funnily enough, I think was created for games. But
It's a general truth. Anything that people develop for software will be used for a game.
Yeah.
You go back in the 60s, you see people that program their oscilloscopes to play things.
Absolutely. Because it's surprising how hard it is to play sounds concurrently, like having overlapping sounds. And this is one of the few, at least at the time when I wrote this, one of the few libraries that allowed to actually do overlapping sounds, which of course is really much needed for the game. What else do we have? Yeah, another very interesting aspect is, the pipes are random the way they come into the screen because
right.
they change the. So the spacing between the pipes is fixed, but where
that break
spacing
that
is placed.
you have to flap through.
Exactly. And so what I do is that I created a random generator, which allows you to inject a seed, so you can have predictable results.
For
And
tests, it'll be handy.
if you go to random dart, I think that should be here in the utils.
Oh, got it.
If I'm not mistaken, yeah. So essentially, we just wrap a random in an iterator with the seed. So if you use the same seed, you will always get the same random out of it, which is very nice. And then we use the iterator to actually, we consume it one by one to produce the pipes. So that's also very interesting. But from the outside, again, you have no idea where these numbers are coming from. Maybe you designed a specific layout, a specific level, because you want a challenge of some kind, and
Yeah, people could share
something
seeds
like that.
online like they do with some other games.
Yes.
Like,
But even you could create the list yourself. Like it doesn't have to be random, because the iterable with all the values is just injected. So yeah. What else do we have? There's the sprites are also interesting because it's a lot harder than one would think to load images. And in fact, there's this image provider class which allows you. Oh, that's really not formatted. Thank you. It allows you to specify what image you want to use without actually loading it yet. And so we do that. We have a function that takes the name of the thing and tries to create an image provider for it automatically. And so
Using this exact asset image.
yeah. And and so again, you need to inject where to find the assets, but then once you have that, the whole system is just completely hooked up to easily find.
Yeah, so I mean, you're not doing anything like 1x, 2x, 3x image assets or anything like that. Right?
No, because since this is pixel art, we are literally scaling the pixels to a bigger size.
It's supposed to be a little bit blocky.
Yeah. And so it works perfectly well.
This is fascinating. So where can people go look at this code?
Right now, nowhere on my laptop.
So you have to know.
But
You have to know.
you have to know me. But I really hope to push this soon, finish it up. The collisions need to be taken care of, etc. And there's a bunch of there's a tutorial display when you start the game. There's a counter thing.
Oh, of course.
All the assets are already done if you want to look at them, and it's pretty cool.
Say we pulled these up.
In the assets directory.
Yeah, so you have a ton of stuff in here.
Yeah, they're all changed. If you go to tutorial, there should be, for example. This is teaching you how to play the game. Or if you make a really good score, then you get all the badges, which look like coins. So medal,
So there's a badge there.
medal, bronze, medal, gold. And this is, again, dash inside of course. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah, I need to wire this up, and it's going to be on GitHub at some point.
At some point. Okay.
Oh, do you want to look at the physics? Last thing that I
Sure.
just remembered. Physics, I think.
In physics.dart.
Of course. Yeah, it's a flap gravity simulation, obviously.
As one would do.
Yeah, and if you look at it, it's really, really simple. There's not much to it. Like this is the classic equation for motion that you learn in high school, pretty much, right?
In pixels per second squared. All right. So I think that's it for our time with you. But thank you so much. This is a very unique app, and so I'm looking forward to this being on GitHub, just so we can show it to
Yes.
people. You're doing some things here that not everyone would have seen before, including this guy. But thank you to Eugenio Marletti for coming on the show. We are going to get him and our other two experts and me behind this desk all at once, and we're going to answer some questions next. So that's coming up, but thank you
Thank
for
you.
doing a segment.
Absolutely.
There
A
you go.
pleasure.
Are we ready?
We're super ready.
All right, so in this segment, we're going to take some questions that people have posted to YouTube and to Twitter using the hashtag #BoringShow hashtag. And we're going to answer them with a lot of expert help in the room. All right, so first up, coming from Fishy Sushi, which wins my personal award for best Twitter handle of the day. Am I mistaken, or this is about our search episode, which we just did. Am I mistaken, or aren't the suggestions supposed to be a list of past searches when query is empty and keywords are related to the query? Then on click, a suggestion should become the query used for fetching the results. That is absolutely true. In ours, we ended up, because we only had about 10 articles in our list of search results, if you've seen that last episode, we used the headlines for the articles sort of for both the listing of results and suggestions. But in practice, you use a lot of apps. They have a variety of definitions for contextual help for when you're doing a search. For instance, maps, you type something into maps and you get, what are you near to at this point? Those might become your keywords. Or in Chrome, you put something in and you get like it's like the magnifying glass icon that you get for like, you searched for this in the past, and then like the person half a mile from you like was searching for this right now, or these are the kinds of things that people might be searching for based on what you've typed in. So context depends a lot on your app, and can be really, it's up to you really, what you think the user might want in that situation. Do you guys, anybody have searching in their apps right now?
No searching, no.
Yeah, I have one.
You have one with search?
I'm using in the same way. I have to show some suggestions as well, and they like when people search about it. So I have like a kind of e-commerce app, and where people actually search for products, and then we show some barcodes with their product name.
Okay.
So that is showing in the search results as well in the suggestions, and then we bold those characters depending on how the people is like the person is searching. So that's a
So it depends sort of on the user and what they have
Yes.
given you so far.
So it totally depends on the use case, I believe.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just don't do what Twitter does, which is you start typing, something shows up, you're about to click in, then it just goes away.
Yeah,
the
Yep.
same
that's
results
that's,
come in.
that's
A lot
very
of-
rare.
A lot of details to get the UI right.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go on to our second one. This is from Priyansh Pamar, and it says, any tutorial on how to use Google Maps in Flutter? This is something we get a lot. And so I'm going to go ahead and pull up our plugins repo here. So if you've never been here, highly recommend it. Flutter/plugins, we've shown it a bunch of times on the Boring Show before. And I'm going to go into packages. And where are we? Google Maps Flutter. So, yeah, I get that a lot when looking at this plugin. So this is not yet published to pub. It is not yet ready for prime time. But you can go into this package and take a look around. Because we get this question a lot, what's going on with maps? How is it coming? This is a better answer to that question than anything I can tell you, because it's more up to date. You can actually see the code and see what's been implemented. We also have, if I go into Flutter/samples, we also have a map sample that's starting to land right now called Place Tracker, which the very talented Kenzie Schmall up in Portland is working on for the DevRel team. And so this is something that if you want to see how the Google Map API is going to look in an app when it's finished and how you're going to code against it, this is a great place to start. She's done some really, really great work on this. It involves, placing markers and things like that, setting the map type from terrain to roads and things like that. So, yeah, if you have questions about maps, don't mess around. Just go straight to the code, and you
I'm
can see
gonna
it.
make a YouTube tutorial on this,
Oh.
so don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys, any experience using maps?
Actually, no.
No?
No
Yeah.
maps, no
Same
search.
for me.
So, yeah.
I
So,
just used for one of the tutorial only, and there was a plugin
Mhm.
which was like showing the static maps rather than as
yeah.
a widget. So
Yeah, and these are not
yeah.
these are not the static maps. These are using the platform widgets to you can manipulate the map, you can tap on things, and
And I guess
so
there
on
are
and so
many
forth.
guys who are waiting for like this particular
Yeah.
I would say
widget
this
only,
is
right?
this is really a requested feature. Like,
This is why we get a lot of questions on it. So if you'd like to know where things are, the code is the best place to go. That's true of a lot of things in Flutter, actually. All right. Let's see. Another question. This is from Paul Sean. Question: can block be used together with scoped model in Flutter, or are they not meant to be used that way?
I have used it, so
Absolutely legal.
it's it's legal. We've
Yeah,
determined
it's
it.
legal.
So have you ever mixed?
Like
Did
it really,
you?
you can, sure. Like it really depends how your app is structured. There might be encapsulated parts that you want to handle differently.
Mhm.
Maybe you have different teams working in a different way. Like I don't see why not if it works for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I would say that if you use a scoped model and blocks together,
Mhm.
and you're meaning to do a web app as well, then
Mm.
you kind
Yeah,
of
then
because
it's
scoped
kind of-
model is really tightly tied to Flutter,
Flutter,
so
Mhm.
that's
Right.
not going to work in web as well.
That's true.
But there's actually an issue about like splitting the scope model so that it would work in web and Flutter. But that's
Interesting.
not done right
That
now.
would be cool.
Interesting.
Okay.
That would be
I have
awesome.
mostly
Yeah.
used a block pattern only, but for like in some use cases I have used scope model as well for some of the screens. So
Scope model is just
Yeah.
incredibly handy for anything
Yes,
small.
yes.
Like if you just
Yeah.
need a little bit of app state, it is so easy to
So-
use. We use it in our examples all the time because it's just very uncomplicated.
yeah.
But yeah, I think we have a lot of different state management approaches. We got Redux back here.
Yeah.
We have
it's
block
Redux,
over
yeah.
here. I have reblock that I wrote because I just
Yeah.
make mistakes like that.
It's fine. We all
And
make
probably all of us
mistakes,
have used
right?
scope
Yeah.
model at some point.
Definitely a Redux fan.
Yeah.
But like if you have UI state especially and it's something that your domain logic doesn't really care about,
Mhm.
using the scope model is actually a really good way to propagate stuff.
And in
For
fact, if you
example,
don't have to
styles
do a
and-
lot of stuff inside your application, I
Mm.
mean, if that's a very small application, then you don't have to use anything like Redux, even block. So scope model works pretty well.
It's
for-
it's really
yeah.
simple to get
Very
started
simple.
with.
So it's like another widget which is kind of you just wrapping with it and it's working like perfectly.
Mm-mm.
All right.
I guess. Yeah.
Because we could spend 20 minutes talking about state management. So Paul Sean actually had another question later on, and it was, I heard you guys mention that in Dart, explicitly giving the type of a variable, like bool or int, is better for the IDE. How does it affect the performance of a Flutter app? When should I type stuff? And so, yeah, I mean, there's the final keyword, there's the var keyword. You can let the compiler, the static analysis, determine the type for you.
But the point is that the type is always defined at compile time. So in the end, performance-wise, it doesn't matter as long as you resolve to the same type.
As long as you do have something that gives the compiler,
Yeah.
and you don't end up with
'Cause I think you were
dynamic.
mentioning this before, like if you end up being dynamic all the time, then that could be a problem.
Yeah, usually I know if I've made that. So if you're using a stream builder, for example, there's a type parameter that goes onto it. So stream builder, bracket, int, or string or list of string, whatever the payload is for your stream. If you don't give that to Dart, it just goes, okay, stream builder dynamic. This will take whatever anybody gives it. But you also don't get a typed builder. So you run into an issue when you go to build your widgets that you don't know what data you're going to get because the compiler doesn't know what data it's going to get.
Yeah.
And so usually I end up catching it if I've done something that way. Like if I've, left myself
I
in a
see.
dynamic,
Yeah.
like I failed to give the compiler enough information to resolve the type,
Yeah.
I run into a later inconvenience and notice it right
It's
away.
like a virus, it spreads.
Yeah.
And it's
more.
difficult to actually figure it out at that time. And I personally feel that for developer experience, it's kind of good practice to actually specify those types.
So you like generally manually typing?
Yeah, maybe.
And I would
actually
say
use, right?
it actually helps pull request reviews sometimes. If you're not inside of your IDE, you can see that, okay, this
now
is
we're
going to
getting
be...
into the realm of
I
But
cannot say about that.
in other languages like Kotlin,
Yeah.
like type inference works so well that
Yep.
sometimes you really don't want to specify the type because
Exactly.
it almost doesn't matter. Like in the context of that piece of code, if it compiles, it's fine essentially. So there is an analyzer flag to disallow having the
Yeah.
compiler automatically.
That's a good point.
switch
Yeah.
to
So
dynamic.
if any of you are considering becoming a contributor to the Flutter SDK itself or one of the packages, they actually have that flag set, and so they prefer types in pretty much anywhere you can put one, including in lambdas.
Yeah, that's like I've been doing a couple PRs, and they actually like you guys actually use unspecified types manually. For some reason, I don't know why.
So it's analyzer strong mode, implicit casts false, and implicit dynamic false.
Implicit dynamic was the one I was thinking of, but implicit cast too.
I actually used in one of the versions when there was some issue with the Dart version or something. I had to use it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Interesting.
I like being strict with my types.
Yeah.
Helps.
Yes. All right. So one last question. This is from Kordadza, judging by the capitalization. I'm interested in two topics: Flutter internationalizing and map support for Flutter. And so map support we kind of covered already, but real quick, who's done anything with internationalization? Because that's not something I've gotten into yet personally.
Is the guy.
I've done that a couple times, and I keep notes for myself. So it's kind of involved process to do, and I have the in my Inkino app in the core module. There's actually a sample to do that, but I would say that the docs are kind of scattered around.
Yes, correct.
You're probably agree on
Yeah,
that.
I have actually used it just for one language only. I actually converted from like English to Hindi for Flutter UI kit.
Yeah.
So I actually used it, but it's kind of maybe difficult from like when you're reading from the documentation. It's kind of difficult to understand.
But it's kind of similar to like how Qt handles the internalization. So that you basically like you define your messages, and then you use a tool to generate those ARB files, and then you upload those somewhere and translate those, and then get those back to your app. But I would definitely want to have some kind of hold your hand guide around this, because it's you don't do that so often, so you kind of forget it every time, and then you have to relearn it.
Yeah, and it takes some time, so I could not give that much time to that project.
Yeah.
It's like, it
Well,
was
we're gonna-
difficult. So, I mean, this thing can be improved for sure.
Okay.
So,
I guess the
We're-
IDE could help.
Yeah,
yes.
tooling would be awesome for you.
Tooling,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, like I said, we're going to run into this with the Vox Day app pretty soon, because we're going to want to add internationalization for that. And so that's something the DevRel team is going to run into, and we will probably start making more cohesive guides for it at that time. Because it's an important issue if you're,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
everybody wants an international audience. All right. So that's our questions, and that's our show, actually. So thank you to everybody
Thanks
you.
to you.
Yeah.
for being on here with us.
Thanks to everyone.
Yeah. Again, if you would like to post questions for us, please do that. You can use the Boring Show hashtag on Twitter. You can respond in the comments to this video themselves. We look at those all the time. We try to answer them both in the comments and here.
Maybe we will not answer it together next time, but separately we can
Yeah.
answer, right?
Ask for us to come back to the show.
Yeah.
It's very important.
That's
There you
very
go.
important, right?
All right. So thanks to you guys, and thanks to all of you that made it through the episode with us. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.